If you live in northwest London, you know the building. It's a 21-storey triangular shard of glass and concrete that looms over the North Circular. For years, it was known as Wembley Point. I've driven past it, sat in traffic underneath it, and looked out at it from the windows of the Bakerloo line more times than I can count. But for the longest time, I didn't know that on the morning of Friday, October 29th, 2004, a woman spent her final moments there. She has been unidentified for 2 decades. She isn't a cold case in the criminal sense. She is a person whose name has been lost to time. Today we are here because someone somewhere is missing a friend, a sister or a daughter, and the clues to her identity are sitting in a file, waiting for the right person to hear them. It was Friday the 29th of October 2004. Wembley Point was already busy that morning. Office workers were arriving, swiping badges, clutching morning coffees. It was an ordinary start to the day. At around 8:30 a.m, a woman entered the building. Witnesses later described her as calm. She didn't seem distressed or agitated. In fact, she moved through the building with a sense of confidence, as if she knew exactly where she was going. The woman took the lift to the 21st floor. At the time, this floor housed the canteen cafe area. She behaved like any other person in the building. She ordered a coffee and sat down at a table near the window. For a bit, she simply sat there. She smoked a cigarette and flipped through a copy of the Guardian newspaper from that same day. Everything about the scene was seemingly ordinary. However, what wasn't ordinary is what happened next. Without warning, the woman suddenly stood up, climbed onto a nearby table, and jumped through the window. In an instant, the ordinary morning for everyone in that canteen was shattered. And for the woman, a 20-year silence began. When someone moves with that much purpose, knowing the lift, knowing the canteen, you expect to find a name. You expect a wallet with a staff ID, or maybe even a driver's license. But she carried nothing that told us who she was. Instead, she left behind a collection of very specific, very personal items that organizations such as Locate International have been meticulously analyzing for years, still hoping that one of them will act as a key. The woman, described as a black female aged between 20 to 40 and was around 5'1" to 5'3", was dressed for the cold morning. She wore a maroon zip-up bomber jacket and a crew-neck jumper worn over a thin black polo neck jumper. She wore black tights and trousers. On her feet, she wore black Sketcher boots with side zips and buckles. But it's her jewellery that feels like a whisper from her real life. On her right ring finger was a silver ring shaped like a cowrie shell. This shell could simply be decorative, but Locate International uncovered that they are deeply symbolic across West African cultures, representing fertility. This could potentially tell us personal issues she might have been facing, and a potential cultural fingerprint. Then there was a bag she carried, a black plastic carrier bag with the letters CPNY. Inside wasn't a laptop or office files, but rather a 2-foot by 1-foot oil painting on canvas. It's a striking and abstract piece, tribal patterns, faces, and dancing or falling figures crowded together. But in the middle, a deliberate, haunting, blank white space where a face should be. The charity Locate International have spent a long time looking at this painting. Was she the artist? Was she a student at one of the nearby colleges? Or was the blank face in the center a reflection of how she felt, present but unknown? Because there was no ID, investigators had to look at the breadcrumbs of her mourning, the very few items she left behind. £5 20 in cash, the painting in the plastic bag, a black disposable lighter and a used pack of 10 Marlboro cigarettes, and one small object that stood out: a 7-day bus pass. It's the most tangible link that investigators have to her life outside of Wembley Point. The pass was issued on Tuesday the 26th of October, just 3 days before she walked into Wembley Point. It was bought at 7:07 a.m. at a small newsagent at 223 Seven Sisters Road near Finsbury Park Tube Station. 7:07 a.m. on a Tuesday in North London. That's the height of the morning commute. To me, it suggests a routine. It suggests that she was a woman who had a reason to be out the door before the sun was fully up. But here is the part that haunts me and many others. A 7-day pass. She bought it on Tuesday and it was still valid for another couple of days. She had days left on that pass. It's a small piece of evidence that suggests at least on Tuesday morning she was planning for a future that stretched into the next week. She had already paid for those journeys. She had somewhere she intended to be. But what was that route? Did she live near Seven Sisters Road and commute to Wembley? It's a long journey, over 10 miles across the city. Or was Seven Sisters or Wembley Point just a stop on her way to somewhere else? For years, these questions sat in a file. But since Locate International took on the case, they've started to pull on threads that others missed. They've moved beyond the what and started to look for the who through the eyes of the community, and they found things. One of the most significant leads comes from a witness who spoke to her just a few weeks before that October morning. He describes a woman who matched her perfectly. He told the organisation that she mentioned being deeply distressed, not about herself, but about her boyfriend's health. This changes a lot. It means there was someone else, a partner, a companion, someone who in 2004 was likely unwell. It raises the heartbreaking possibility that the person who knew her best might have been unable to come forward, or perhaps they are no longer with us. But the leads don't stop there. Locate International have also been tracing her connections to the building itself. While many thought she was a visitor, their investigators have found accounts of her walking confidently through the halls. It's led to a theory that she might have been a contractor or a cleaner, someone whose work made them a familiar shadow in the building, but perhaps not someone the office workers knew by name. They've also looked into the Chestnut Arts and Community Centre near Seven Sisters. Because of her painting and that cowrie shell ring, there is a strong belief she was part of the West African or Afro-Caribbean creative communities in North London. Was she part of an art therapy group? Some suggest perhaps she was part of a local cultural group supporting asylum seekers from West Africa. Every piece of information Locate International uncovers is a step closer to filling in that blank white space in the center of her painting. They aren't just looking for leads, they are looking for the people who lived alongside her. Like the newsagent who saw the ticket at 7 a.m. every Tuesday, or the people who attended an art class or any cultural space in Seven Sisters in the early 2000s. Even the cleaning or catering agencies that sent staff to Wembley Point. Locate International knows that 20 years is a long time, but it isn't long enough to erase a person entirely. someone remembers the woman with the cowrie shell ring. If you are listening to this and you remember a woman from the Seven Sisters area who stopped taking the bus in late 2004, or if you recognize the style of that oil painting or any other part of this case, please don't keep that memory to yourself. You can find all the images of her belongings and the forensic artist impression of her face at locate.international. You can contact them anonymously. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to provide the one piece of the story she couldn't tell us herself. Let's help give her name back.